We continue now at the top of Daf Chav Ches Amud Aleph and Meseches Avodah Zara. This is Avodah Zarah Daf 28a. On the previous Amud, the Gemara brought the first version of Rabba Bar Bar Chana from Rabbi Yochanan, that any wound which we would be mechalel Shabbos over, so that you're not allowed to be treated by the Ovdei Kochavim. The idea is that that is a wound, that is a danger, that poses a danger to the person's life. And now the Gemara is in the middle of the second version of Rabba Bar Bar Chana from Rabbi Yochanan, that if it's a Maka Shel Chalal, if it's an internal wound, Ein Misrap and Mehen, then you're not allowed to get healing services from the Ovdei Kochavim. Rashi says, Shel Chalal B'Chalal Gufo, again an internal wound. And the Gemara says, Mai Beinai, what's the difference between the two versions? They seem to be saying the same basic idea, that if it's a wound that poses a danger to life, then you're not allowed to get healing services from them. Rashi says, Mai Beinayu, he, it's the same thing. Because we say in the second parak of Yuma, that any internal wound, Mechalin Oleas HaShabbos, that's the kind of a wound that you would desecrate Shabbos for. And the Gemara continues and answers, Ika Beinayu, the difference between them is Gav Hayad v'Gav Haregel. Let's say it's a wound on the back of the hand or the back of the foot. The Yomer Avodah Bar Masna Marav, because Masna says that Rav says Gav Hayad v'Gav Haregel, the back of the hand and the back of the foot. Harehein Kamaka Shel Chalal, those are considered like internal wounds. Umechalin Alein as HaShabbos, and we would desecrate Shabbos for them. Rashi says Gav Hayad Mechalin Shabbos. Again, we would be Mechal Shabbos Afa Bisha Eina Shel Chalal, even though technically it's not an internal wound. L'lishnakama Ein Misrapin. So therefore, according to the first version, we are not going. In that case, you're not allowed to get healing from them. Avol Lishna Ba'asra. But according to the latter version, where it's specifically an internal wound, so then Misrapin, you actually would be allowed to be healed from the Ovdei Kochavim if it's a wound on the back of the hand or the back of the foot. And what would be the reason for that? The Ho'elu Mischazia, because since it's seen, everyone can see what we're dealing with. If he sees that he's doing something that's actually going to cause damage, so then he's just going to remove that medicine that the non-Jew put on, and it won't be a problem. And so therefore, again, that's the difference between the two versions. If you say that in internal wounds specifically, you're not allowed to get healing from the Ovdei Kochavim, so Gav Hayad and Gav Haregel would actually be okay. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Zutra Bar Tuvia Amar Rav. Rav Zutra Bar Tuvia says that Rav says, Kol Maka Shetzricha Omed, any kind of wound that needs an evaluation, Mechalin Oleas HaShabbos, that's the kind of wound that you can desecrate Shabbos for. Rashi says, Shetzricha Omed, it needs an evaluation, meaning Shemesukenes Kol Kach, that it's so dangerous, Shetzarach La'amdo Em Yechya Evim Yamas, that you would actually need to evaluate if this person will live or die, so then you can desecrate the Shabbos. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Shemin bar Abba, Amar Rav Yochanan. Rav Shemin bar Abba says that Rav Yochanan says, V'hai ishtat tzemirta, if you have a burning fever, Kemaka shel chalal dami, that's similar to an internal wound, Umechalin oleh as HaShabbos, and you're able to desecrate Shabbos for that. And the Gemara continues, Mehechon Maka Shel Chalal, from where does a Maka Shel Chalal, where does an internal wound start? Perush Rabbi Yami explains, Min Hasofa Vilifnim, from the lips and inward, that's considered to be an internal wound. And again, if it's considered to be an internal wound, it's considered to be dangerous, and you're allowed to use medicines for that on Shabbos. And the Gemara continues, Boy Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer asked the following question. The Mesoras Hashas changes it to Boy Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar asked the following question, Kake v'shine mai, what if a person has an ailment by his gums or his teeth? Since those are hard areas of the body, Kemake divroi damu, is that considered to be like a wound on the outside of the body, in which case it's not considered something you can be Mechal Shabbos. O Dilmor, maybe Kevin de Gavoi Kaimi, since they are within, meaning to say again, they're inside of the lips, so to speak. So Kemaka Shel Chalal Damu, so that's considered to be like an internal wound. The Gemara says, Amar Abai, Abai says, Tashma, come and hear the following proof. This is from a Mishnah in Mesechet Shabbos, HaChoshesh B'shinav. It says, let's say somebody is concerned about his teeth. Lo yigma bohenes hachometz. So on Shabbos, he's not allowed to swallow vinegar. Rashi explains, Lo yigma b'Shabbos, he's not allowed to swallow the vinegar on Shabbos. D'chol refuah asru chachamim la'asosa b'Shabbos, because in general, when it comes to anything medicinal, the chachamim say it's asr on Shabbos. Heicha deleko sakon, as long as there's no danger, and that's why it's not allowed over here. But the Gemara says, Choshesh delo, so in a situation where he's just concerned about his teeth, that's when it's not allowed. Hakoiv le'tuva shaper dami, but if he would be in a lot of pain, so apparently it would be permitted, and therefore it seems like it is considered to be an internal wound. The Gemara says not necessarily. Dil matana hecha dekoiv le'tuva choshesh nami karile. It could be the Tana of the Mishnah in a situation where it really does hurt a lot. That also is referred to by the Tana of the Mishnah as choshesh, as a concern, and so therefore it could be it's not allowed in all cases. It's not necessarily a proof that that's considered to be an internal wound. And the Gemara continues, Tashma, coming here, the following proof. Rabbi Yochanan chosh b'tzafdina. Rabbi Yochanan, he was concerned about tzafdina, and that also is some kind of illness of the teeth. Azal agavadahi matronisa, he went to a certain matron of the chamshu mali shabsa, so she made the medicine for him on Thursday and Friday. So Amar Law, so he said to her, L'mochamai, what am I going to do tomorrow? Tomorrow's Shabbos. I can't come to you for the medicine. Rashi said, B'Shabbos amai yavid, what am I going to do on Shabbos? D'lo matzina l'maisi gaboch m'nei talmidei b'nei kala. I'm not able to come because of my students who are coming for the lecture that is given, and so therefore, what am I going to do on Shabbos? So Amra Lei, so then she said to him, Lo tzrich, you don't need the medicine, you're not going to need it on Shabbos. He said, Itzrich na mai. So I said, what if I do need it? What do I do? Amra, so then she said, Ishtabali de lo miglas, so swear to me that you won't reveal what the medicine is, and so then I'll tell you how to make it. So Ishtaba lo Yisrael lo maglina. So he swore to her, to the God of Israel, I won't reveal it. So Galiole, so then she revealed to him how to make the medicine. Lamachar, the next day, Nafak Darsha Bapirka. So in the lecture that he gave, he actually publicized how to make the medicine. The Gemara says, V'yishtabalo, but didn't he take an oath to her? How could he publicize it? And the Gemara says, no, la law di Yisrael lo maglina, v'li'ami Yisrael maglina. What the oath was he's not going to reveal it to the God of Israel, but he is going to reveal it to the nation of Israel. But the Gemara says, V'yika chil Hashem, but isn't that a chil Hashem? Because again, she thinks that he took an oath and that he transgressed the oath. And the Gemara says, no, the Gali law may kara. The Gemara says, no, he told her right away, meaning to say, right after she revealed to him how to make the medicine, he said, you should know that I only took a shvur that I wasn't going to reveal to the God of Israel, but I am going to reveal it to the nation of Israel. And so therefore, it's not a chil Hashem, he's not transgressing his oath. The Gemara says, so anyway, you see from here, that apparently it is like an internal wound because it's permitted to be healed on Shabbos. The Gemara says, Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak says, Shani tzafdina. It's different by tzafdina, ho'elu maschil b'peh, v'gomer b'vnei mayayim, because it starts in the mouth, but it actually finishes in the intestines, therefore it is like an internal wound, and that's why it's permitted to get medicine for that on Shabbos. And the Gemara continues, my simoni, what are the symptoms of tzafdina? The Gemara says, Rami midi beikachi, somebody puts something between his teeth, umaisi dama mi beidari, and then blood is going to flow from the rows of his teeth. And the Gemara says, mi mai have, so what causes tzafdina? The Gemara says, mi krire dechiti, if he has cold items that are made of wheat, umechamime desari, or let's say he has hot items that are made of barley, umishiure kasa deharson, or if he has leftovers of fried fish. And the Gemara says, "My avdale." So what was the medicine that she made for him? Amar Rav Acha Brei Derava. Rav Acha Brei Derava says, "Mesa or it was water with leaven, v'shemen zayis, and olive oil, v'melach, and salt." Umar Bar Rav Ashi, Amar Bar Rav Ashi says, "Mishcha de'avza." It was the fat of a goose. Begadfa de'avza, and it was applied with the feather of a goose. And the idea is that the goose fat was applied to the gums with a goose feather. And the Gemara continues, Amar Abaya. Abaya says, I'm not avdi kulo. I did all of those things. V'lo et hasoy, it didn't heal me. Ado Amar liyahutai, until a certain Arab said to me, I see kashiosa dezesa, bring olive seeds, delo molu tilsa, which have not ripened a third. V'kolinu amor acharta, and then roast them on a new hoe. V'davik ve dedari, and then put it along the gums. Avdi hachi, I did this, v'tasoy, and I was healed. But the Gemara continues and asks, Reb Yochanan hechi avid hachi, how did Reb Yochanan do this? Meaning to say, how did Reb Yochanan go to a non-Jewish healer? V'yamar Rava bar bar Chana amar Reb Yochanan, but Rava bar bar Chana said that Reb Yochanan said, Kol mako shemechalin oles haShabbos, anytime you have a wound that is severe enough, dangerous enough, that one would be mechal Shabbos, one would desecrate Shabbos to heal that, ein misrapin mehen, you're not allowed to go to the Ovdei Kochavim, you can't go to the idol worshippers in order to be healed. And the Gemara says, Adam chashav shani, by an important person, that's different, meaning to say that Rabbi Yochanan was an important person, and therefore she wasn't going to kill him. The Gemara says, Rabbi Avoda Adam chashav have, but Rabbi Avo also was an important person. V'ramala Yaakov mina, and yet Yaakov the heretic, he gave him sama ashake, he put some medicine on his leg. V'ilo Rabbi Ami for Rabbi Asi, and if not for Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi, d'lechu l'shake, that they licked it off of his leg, paske l'shake, they would have had to amputate his leg. And so therefore you see, even by an important person, there's a danger. And the Gemara continues and answers, Rabbi Yochanan rofe mumche have, but Rabbi Yochanan, that healer was an expert healer. She would not want to have lost her good reputation, and that's why in that case it was permitted. The Gemara says, but the Rabbi Avo nami rofe mumche have, but that was true by Rabbi Avo also, wasn't an expert healer in that case as well. And the Gemara says, no, shani Rabbi Avo, it's different by Rabbi Avo's case. The mukmi bei mine ben afshayu, because over there was a heretic. The heretics are actually worse. The heretics apply to themselves the pasuk of Tamos nafshi and plishtim, that I should die together with the plishtim, meaning they're willing to sacrifice themselves, in this case sacrifice their reputations, if it's going to bring harm to the Jewish people. And the Gemara continues, Amar Shmuel, Shmuel says, Hai pedata, if a person has a gash from a sword, sakantahi, that's dangerous, umechalin oles Shabbos, one is allowed to desecrate Shabbos in order to heal that. The Gemara says, Maya Asusa, what is the way to heal that? Lemifzak dam, in order to stop the blood, tachle bechala, a person should consume cress in vinegar, and liasuke, in order to bring up the flesh to heal the wound, garda de yavla, scrapings of yavla, vigirda de asna, and scrapings of a thorn bush, o nikra mikilkalasa, or the worms from the trash. And Rashi explains, pedata, again, petza makas cherev, that's a wound from a sword, lemifzak demoshel pedata, in order to stop the blood, im yotze yoser midai, if it's flowing too much, tachle bechola, again, that's cress and vinegar, yashkuhu, shechola mechometz, he should drink that. And lasuke, lahalos boser shetichyamak, in order to bring up the flesh, that the wound should heal, so garda de yavla, the scrapings of yavla, that's esev sheshemo yavla, that's a grass that was called yavla, again, you're going to apply that kind of a salve, and girda shagore sharasha, girda means, again, you're going to scrape the roots. V'nose nosa girda im girdas eitz hasneva osatach boshes. You're going to make a kind of a salve for the wound out of that. And then the Gemara said, Nikra mikilkalasa could also be the worms from the trash. Toloim shatar negolim minakran biashba. That refers to the worms that the chickens actually eat from the garbage, from the trash. And Rashi notes, me'ashpos yorim evyon, that the pasuk of ashpos, me'ashpos yorim evyon, mitargaminan mikilkalasa. It's actually translated in that same, with that same word, mikilkalasa, so that refers to the trash. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Safra says, Hayin Vos, if somebody has a boil that looks like a grape, Farvanko de Malacha de Mosahi, that's a forerunner of the angel of death, meaning to say it's a dangerous situation he might die from. And Maya Susa, what's the way to heal that? Tigna beduvsha, he can soak tigna in honey. Tigna is a kind of a grass. Okarpasa betilia, or he soaks parsley in wine. And adahachi v'hachi, in the meantime, lacy in vosa basmina, he should bring a grape that's about the size of the boil. V'negandri lave chivarti lechivarti v'uchmasi le'uchmasi, and he should apply it to the boil. He should bring a white grape for a white boil and a black grape for a black boil. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rava says, Hai simta, this abscess or boil, farvanko de ishtohi, that's a forerunner of a fever. Maya susa, what's the way to heal that? Limchia shisin iskutle, the person should snap it 60 times with his finger. Vilakare shasiva erev, and he should tear it vertically and horizontally. Vahani mili de lochiva reshi, and that's only true, and this is only true if the top of it, if the head of it is not white. Aval chiva reshi, but if the top is white, less lanba, then there is no concern. And Rashi explains, V'chiva reisha, if the top is white, nisbashal, so it's ripened, so to speak, lahotzi halecha, and the moisture is coming out, he refuah, so that already is the process of healing. And the Gemara continues, Rabbi Yaakov was suffering from, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video, on Daf Chav Ches Amud Beis.